The president of the world's most powerful country is sitting in a war cabinet meeting. The Iran issue is on the table. The nuclear threat, regional tensions, assessments of military capabilities. Right at that moment, in that very room where decisions destined for the history books are being made, the president takes the floor and brings the subject down to earth. A Sharpie, then a $1,000 ballpoint pen, then the Federal Reserve chairman, and back to the pen again. And while all this is happening, Iran is watching, Russia is watching, the rest of the world is watching. They see that this is what America has put on the table at a war meeting. This scene is not merely comical or embarrassing. It is also an extremely significant data point, because a leader's attention span, consistency, and relationship with reality carry meaning far beyond strategic calculations. Enemies turn weakness into opportunity. Always. This is not a simple political critique. It is a geopolitical reality. So how did this start? Donald Trump has repeatedly stated in public since 2018 that he has taken cognitive tests and passed them. Even in his own words, crushed them. The New York Times clearly defined what this test was at the time: a screening exam lasting about 10 minutes, designed to detect memory and thinking issues early on. Can you draw a clock? Can you tell the difference between a lion, a rhinoceros, and a camel? That's about it. A perfect score is 30. The normal range is 26 to 30. So the test Trump claimed to have crushed is actually a screening tool that any normal adult is expected to pass. What does it mean to present this as some heroic feat? Moreover, he claims he took this test not once, but 3 times. Why would a person have to take this test 3 times? Because someone is worried. Someone, or perhaps a few people, wants to double check. And today, at the war meeting, Trump recounted this test once again, but what he said didn't quite match reality. Let's look at what came out of Trump's own mouth. No president has ever disclosed this to the public. I'm the only president to do so. Wrong. The final questions contain very difficult mathematical equations. Wrong. This test doesn't contain mathematical equations. It measures the ability to recall simple word lists, time orientation, and basic drawing skills. No doctor has ever seen results as good as mine. The source of this claim, Trump himself again, and let's add this: getting a perfect score isn't rare. Doctors see these scores every day. It's not a record, it's an expected result. But for Trump, everything becomes a record, everything a unique success story. Think about why that matters. If a person speaks so defensively, so insistently, and so inconsistently about their cognitive abilities, what does that tell us? Maybe nothing, or maybe everything, and then the Sharpie issue begins. Trump shows the pen he's holding at a cabinet meeting, says it's cheap but writes well, then switches to a Sharpie. From there to $1,000 pens. According to the story, the White House uses $1,000 ballpoint pens for signing ceremonies, and these are distributed to attendees. The kids take these pens and ask, "What's this, Mom?" Trump's conscience pricked him. He decided to run the government as if it were his own money and negotiated with a Sharpie manufacturer. They settled on $5. As he put it, this was a victory, a negotiation success. Now, a dozen Sharpies at Staples cost $8.99. That's 75 cents each. Trump's negotiation victory. The $5 Sharpie is roughly 7 times the retail price. He explained this to the billionaires in his war cabinet. None of them objected, because none of them had the slightest idea what the real price of a Sharpie was. This actually brings to mind 1992. George H.W. Bush couldn't hide his astonishment when he saw the barcode scanner at a supermarket checkout. That scene had become a symbolic breaking point. It showed just how disconnected he was from the reality ordinary Americans face every day. Bill Clinton won that election with the slogan, "It's the economy, stupid." Now, in a time when gas prices are rising, inflation is still being felt, and the promise to lower prices was central to his campaign, Trump is telling negotiation stories without knowing the price of a Sharpie. Every mother knows, every student knows, everyone who puts a pen in their school bag knows, 75 cents, but the billionaires in Trump's cabinet don't know. And this disconnect isn't merely economic ignorance. It's a portrait of a ruling class completely detached from everyday life. That's why this pen story isn't trivial. Then there's the issue of the $1,000 pen. Trump claimed these were actually used, but they weren't. Not once. Previous administrations did use pens at signing ceremonies. Yes, high-quality ballpoint pens costing around $200. They were custom designed, commemorative, and meaningful. During the Biden administration, these were a bit cheaper, but still high quality. A $1,000 pen. No, there was no such practice. Trump is right that there are $1,000 pens in the world, but these were never used at presidential signing ceremonies. So Trump invented a waste out of thin air, then claimed he eliminated that waste, and then presented it as a cost-saving success. Does this narrative structure sound familiar? First, there's no problem. then invent a problem, then solve the problem, then play the hero. This is the core template of Trump's political communication, and this template works even in a war cabinet. So how did Iran interpret this? We don't know, but we can speculate. Intelligence agencies monitor meetings, analysts scrutinize speeches, psychologists profile leaders. And the picture emerging from that room today was this America's president at the nuclear tension table, fixated on a pen, a Sharpie, the Federal Reserve, and back to the pen. Amid discussions of military capabilities, he framed a ballpoint pen negotiation as a victory story. What does an adversary take from this? At worst, they might conclude that the opposing side's attention span, consistency, and ability to focus have significantly weakened. At best, they approach it with caution, suspecting it's a show and that the real message isn't being conveyed through other channels. In either case, there is a serious trust deficit at the table. And in the international arena, a trust deficit is a very dangerous void. The debate over cognitive competence is not political, or at least it shouldn't be. It is a medical and institutional matter. In every major democracy, leaders undergo regular health checkups. Transparency is expected, but the difference between transparency and performance is critical. Trump says he takes the tests and makes it a point of pride. But what does his daily performance say? He starts a sentence, jumps to another topic midway, moves on to a third topic, then somehow circles back, but the connections remain vague. Journalists note this, observers document it, and sometimes even members of his own cabinet reveal their reactions through their body language. The point isn't to humiliate a person. The point is to assess the cognitive capacity required for a position that holds the nuclear codes, shapes alliances, and makes decisions on war. Asking this question is a democratic responsibility. We must also look at the other members of the cabinet. Scott Bessent called Trump's pen story very revealing after hearing it. It truly was, but likely in a different way than he intended. Everyone in that room smiled, nodded, and clapped. No one said, "Sir, can we get back to the topic?" No one asked, "Where did we leave off on the Iran issue?" That's a whole different picture, because whenever a leader strays from the path, the people around him should be able to steer him back. But in this cabinet, that mechanism doesn't seem to be working. Either there's fear or self-interest, or perhaps no one has the capacity to object anymore. It's hard to say which is more concerning. But one thing is certain, that room did not send a strategic message to Iran that day. What was sent was something else. In the end, we must ask, does this matter? Does it really? Some might say, Trump has always been like this. We're used to it. Yes, there is a pattern. But a pattern is not normalization. The frequent repetition of something does not make it harmless. On the contrary, it dulls our attention. And that is precisely why we must not overlook the pen story and the cognitive test narrative. These details are the moments when character traits are most clearly revealed. A leader who fixates on the price of a pen at the negotiating table, who frames a routine screening test as a legendary display of intelligence, who invents non-existent $1,000 pens and then casts himself in the role of savior. Iran watched this, we watched it too. The real question is, what will we do after watching?